Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of this crazy podcast where I talk to new and interesting people in the BPO industry and figure out how do they have such fantastic businesses that they have built for, in some cases, almost 10 years. I'm talking to Nick today, and Nick is the founder, and very specifically, he only told me founder. He holds no other role other than that, which is quite interesting, of TOA Global. Tell me if I got that pronunciation right, Nick. I probably didn't.
TOA Global is probably a little bit cleaner, but yeah, it's close.
TOA Global. Oh, okay. We got to talk about where you came up with that name, because that's another really interesting one. So he's been running this company for 10 years. He specializes in the accounting, bookkeeping, CPA industry. I know that you probably need that. I need that, to be honest with you. I am trying to make a transition right now to a new accountant, possibly by the end of this call. He'll have me sold. And he has 3,700 people that are working underneath him inside of that company. And as I was telling him, that puts him approximately in the top 5% of all BPOs on planet Earth. Nick, thank you so much for coming and spending 45 to 1.5 hours with me. How are you?
Awesome. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
So, Nick, take me back to year one of starting the business. Number one, what is behind the name? Um, you named it, obviously. Why did you come up with that particular name? It has nothing to do with accounting, at least in my perception, or CPAs or bookkeeping in the name.
It does actually, which is the
It
surprising
does?
part. But yeah, so how we came about it was I was running my own accounting and financial planning business and
Okay.
came to the Philippines for a board retreat with a company called EO, Entrepreneurs Organization. So
Yes, know them well.
I was over there for that and then ended up, seeing what I could do with my own back office. I was having all the struggles that most of our clients have, can't find people, can't scale quick enough. So ended up setting up my own back office there. It was never intended to be a BPO. It ended up becoming one because other firms saw what we're doing and wanted to put people in with us rather than recreating it. But the
Wow.
name and how it came about, we were originally called the outsourced accountant. So
Mm,
and we got that. There was no marketing agency genius behind it. It was we wanted to rank in Google, and when someone
right.
came to our stand at an event, we wanted them to understand we are the outsourced accountant. So it was pretty straightforward. But the challenge with that as we grew was we don't just have accountants, and we have all roles that an accounting firm has. So that could
Right.
also be admin, marketing, HR, IT. So we were starting to get feedback from our internal team around, well, we're not accountants. Why is the name accountants? So we ended up going, all right, well, let's just shorten it to TOA, so the outsourced accountant, TOA, and then
Mm-hmm.
we just put global on the end because we thought we're a global organization at that point. So there was no real genius around it. So that's how I say it's not related, but it is. So TOA Global, that's really how it came about.
Hilarious. So, what was the acronym again for TAO? Uh,
TOA. Oh,
yeah,
so the
is
outsourced accountant.
outsourced accountant. Totally outsourced accountant? No,
No,
sorry. What
the
was it again?
the outsourced
The
accountant.
the
Yeah.
outsourced accountant. So was that the URL that you had
Yep.
before?
Yeah, 100% was.
And did you transfer it over to the new URL? Was there an
Yeah.
issue
Oh,
transferring that over?
no issue, but it significantly affected. Like that was one of our big failures. We had real great traffic, we had great everything, and then we completely changed the URL and went back to square one. And we did that
Oh,
after
jeez.
like 8.5 years in. So like a year and a half ago, we did that. So we went from 8.5 years worth of this URL and then flipping it. Probably wasn't the best move, but you live and you learn.
Well, that's a good lesson. So, what did you literally go down to zero traffic and then it rebuilt? Because I have to tell you, changing URLs is kind of like performing brain surgery. It's
Yeah,
very stressful. Particularly, I have a
yeah.
client right now that literally they added a URL to their main domain and they ended up impacting their traffic by 10%, which for them negatively, which ended up actually creating a huge problem. And we're now trying to like rescind all of those changes now. So what happened with you guys?
Yeah, we had a CMO. They were only there for a short period of time in the end, but
Just enough to screw everything up. Sounds like it.
yeah, that one was a big screw up. That was a big fail, to be honest, and they did
Yeah.
transfer it. I mean, the other one diverted to it, so it wasn't.
Okay.
So if people search for the outsourcedaccountant.com, for example, it still went through to the main site, but yeah,
Right.
it's certainly the organic, the SEO, all of that almost overnight went dead. Our Google ads went from maybe call it 30 cents to like $1.30 because we had no
Jeez.
authority. So there was some big impacts that were probably not well thought out or considered.
Mm-hmm.
It happened like I found out after the event. It wasn't as though it wasn't meant to be the issue it was, but yeah, it certainly wasn't a great one. So it's definitely a learning is if you're going to change domain names, be very, very wary of the advice you get, but
Mm-hmm.
also there's got to be a real clear benefit because for
Right.
us, I don't know if the benefit offset that.
Right.
The only thing I can say is that we're probably lucky in some ways that our business BPOs don't get significant search volumes. So
Mm-hmm.
we get more people searching for our key name than we would for them saying offshore accounting, for example.
Right.
So that's the only offset. But if we're in a business that relied on, you know, that,
Search.
be
Yeah.
very different. Be very different.
Wow.
Still a good
I
lesson.
mean, do you want to kind of like almost conceptualize that for us? Was that a 20% impact on your lead generation? Like, if you
Yeah.
want to share that information, that would be super helpful to people listening
Yeah,
right
I don't
now.
know the exact, but it was significant. Like it
Okay.
was definitely 20 to 40%. It would have had an effect for a period of time because the lead costs went up through Google, etc. Because we had
Right.
no domain authority, so it went up
Right.
significantly. The cost, so it
Jeez.
might have like 5 times the cost, and then the volumes like plummeted before they came back. But
Right.
like I said, we don't get significant search volumes, but it's still it is a channel that you rely on consistently. So when it the tap turns off for a period of time or just drips, it does affect
Mm-hmm.
you.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, particularly in a razor blade business like the BPO industry, you have to
Mm.
be able to. It's a margin based business, so you
Yeah.
have to have all of those things perfectly tied together, somewhat like an accountant or bookkeeper,
Yes.
which is a perfect parlay into my next question, which is how are you guys different? There are a lot of bookkeeping and accounting companies that exist today, and to be able to get up to 3,700 plus people inside of your organization, you must be doing something right. How are you different from everyone else in the space?
I think we are very focused on the client. I mean, we would be the largest provider to accountants and bookkeepers, and I think that largely, this probably will come off the wrong way. We're first movers in a lot of things, so we
Okay.
typically will innovate a new service, and then our competitors will generally mirror it or go, no, it's too hard to mirror. We're just going to compete in other ways. So there's a few key things that our training is probably the big one. So
Okay.
we decided many years ago that when we were looking at why clients grow and how quick they grow, a big one was around their ability to train. Now, the
Mm.
challenge is we deal with all sorts of accounting firms. So we deal with our largest one's a $1.5 billion accounting firm. Our smallest
Wow.
one's a sole practitioner. So you've got varying capability and capacity to be able to get the team members trained. Now, one of the
Mm-hmm.
challenges with the Philippines over, say, a country like India is India's got a lot of pre-trained accountants in US and Australian tax. The Philippines
Mm-hmm.
doesn't.
Mm.
So, EY is the largest employer of accountants in the country. We're the second largest, and we're the
Mm-hmm.
largest dealing with international firms. So there really is no one trained. So our thing was around
Mm.
how do we get our accountants, I call it speed of competency, how do we give them the international capability as quick as possible that they're competent and capable to do the work and
Mm-hmm.
continue to grow their careers with their clients? And the answer for us was to build a registered training organization and to give them international certificates and qualifications so that
Mm-hmm.
we can bridge the gap of skills that they need to be able to work with their clients. So With that, we've then been able to build a 7-week, what we call accelerator program. So we're the first to launch and in the market a 7-week training program for accountants to give them the skills to go and do tax in the US and tax in Australia and bookkeeping in Australia and self-managed super funds. So we've got 3 different courses for Australian clients, one for the US. So that was a big one. But then all 3,700 of our team have a professional development plan. So it's a 30 to 40 hour professional development plan. All of them include Australian qualifications. So they could utilize those qualifications and they're Australian, US, New Zealand, whatever country they're working for. And they could legitimately move to that country now and they would be able to operate as a bookkeeper or an accountant there because they would have the qualifications required to do that. So it's not just, our training department, which is probably 95% of BPOs have a training department. They issue certificates like the certificate in Xero. That's a BPO certificate. It's great that they're doing the training. I think that's so important. But our one is actually accredited and they could utilize it in the country they go to. And we've gone through the effort of becoming accredited in all those different countries that we operate.
So my next question, which is a bit of a pushback, but almost kind of an inquisitive one, is becoming accredited in those particular countries. How does that process work? Because at least my assumption is that accreditation primarily would happen through colleges and universities in the United States, as an example, if you want to become an accountant. How does your accreditation process work? And then I'm also interested in the motivator with regards to someone that's starting. What kind of talent do you get that turns into an accountant, as an example, through this 7-week accelerator course?
Yeah, so in America, we're in the final stages of becoming a private college. So we're using someone else at the moment as the intermediacy. In Australia, we are actually registered. It's called an RTO, Registered Training Organisation, which is pretty similar. So we are accredited. We have to follow their licensing and rules. We get audited every year or two. So it does come with a cost and an initial burden to us, but we see the true benefit to our team members because they're going to be able to grow their roles quicker with their clients because of it. With the accelerator program, everyone we employ is already a qualified accountant. So they'll already have typically, 2 to 5 years worth of accounting experience. The 7-week program we put them through gives them the international skills that they need to work for the country that they're ultimately going to be working for. We also give them, for example, the American CPA. So they can, as part of their professional development plan with us, when they're at year 3 to 5, they'll start to do the American CPA program.
Got it. Okay. Wow. So, that must make you into a superpower in comparison to a lot of your competitors, because from an asset perspective, if I go and work for you, approximately in 3 to 4 months, I'm accredited in all of these different countries. I could probably get an accreditation in Australia and I could get an accreditation in the United States in comparison to everyone else. What was the initial cost of setting something like that up? It must be overwhelming in terms of an overall cost, but maybe it isn't. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, look, it's well over 100,000.
Okay.
Just to get the registrations and all of that set up, then you've got to build your content. So, yeah, we're talking, $250,000 to $500,000 at least. It's a significant investment, but for us, we believe in training and we believe in advancing careers, and we know that this is a fundamental piece to be able to do this. The other part of it is we just deal with accounting firms. That's all we do. And when we look at it, we look at it to go, what do accounting firms need to be successful with building a global team, and what do our team members need to be successful? And, the way that we design our offices, we truly believe we've got some of the best offices in the Philippines, and they're designed for the team member we work with. They're not designed for a generalist BPO that has every type of industry. So everything we do is with the lens of our team members who are professional people. they're not call centers. So we need to have professional environments for them to work in, not a call center environment. So it's about how do we balance everything that we do for who we really serve. And that's the way that we look at it. We serve two people. We serve our team members and our clients. And then we need to really look at it to be able to help them both succeed. Because if they don't both succeed, we lose out because we don't grow and we don't have the clients. And, we've grown at 41% for 9.5 years now, year on year. So we've had, there's been others that have grown a lot quicker, but that's pretty strong growth consistently for us. And that's the thing is our focus is to consistently be able to deliver to our clients. And ultimately that will mean that we'll keep creating more roles for our team members.
A follow-up that I have for that one is I'm sure you've probably gotten this before where maybe you're working with a client for bookkeeping or accounting, and all of a sudden they come to you and they say, "Hey Nick, I would really love it if you could run our marketing department." Or, "Nick, I would love it if we could also expand out to support." From what I understand, you have not done that. This is actually to a degree a trap that I see a lot of BPOs doing, which is expanding out of what they're truly great at and kind of adapting towards the client. But you stuck with accountants, bookkeeping, CPAs. Have you thought about that? Has that been kind of an attractant for you, or has that just not even been an issue for you at all?
Yeah, look, we say that we do any role that an accounting firm has. So some of them do have marketing roles, some of them do have IT, some of them have developers and BI people. So we do recruit any role that a firm typically has.
Okay.
But if we had a marketing agency come to us, would we take them on? No. So I think that we're very true to, if it's an accounting firm, we will help them get the roles that they need. Typically the ones that are looking for marketing or IT or HR are the larger ones. So they have the in-house capability to really build a strategy and drive the people in marketing. If they were just coming to us and saying, "Look, we want one marketing person," if someone just, BPO, I don't know, anyone came to us and said, "Look, we want 1 or 2 marketing people," would say, "Look, unless you're an accounting firm that's going to build a total team with us, then, we're not really the best fit for you."
Yeah, I like that. I keep getting reminded of Steve Jobs. He had a quote, which I thought was great, which was figuring out who your customers are not is sometimes more important than figuring out who your customers are. And I'm constantly reminded of that, particularly from an entrepreneurial perspective, picking up FOMO and trying to run after squirrels when they shouldn't really, you should not be doing that under any circumstances whatsoever. Next question I have for you is, what's the sales process look like for you? I mean, you must be doing something special to be able to grow at 40+% for 9+ years. What's your outreach process look like? Does everyone just kind of come to you inbound? It sounds like you're doing a lot of paid advertising. What's the story there?
Yeah, look, for me, the key is being in the industry. So I ran an accounting firm, so we're very active in the community that we serve. So US conferences, Australian conferences, all events we attend. So for me, it's really around how do you be part of the community, and then we overlay that with obviously digital advertising, articles, content. We pretty much do every bit of marketing, but I think why it works is we're in the market, and we're in the market more than any of our majority of. I know pretty much all the BPOs that work in our space, and I would see very few of them at any events globally. So we're very, very present. We've got offices in Fort Worth, Texas. We've got offices in Australia. We have a team in Australia of 40, I think there's 48 people in the office there. In the US, we have 15 people. So we're very active in the markets that we serve. We're not just a BPO in the Philippines selling to people. We're actually in the community and markets with our clients. So for us, that's a big part. And then obviously all the different marketing bits and pieces, digital content, inbound, outbound, all the different ways we attract our clients. And we got a
What
whole
would you?
sales function that do that.
Okay, yeah. What would you say if you were going to double down on only one way of acquiring customers? What would that be in your in your current gambit of strategies that you have?
Yeah, I mean, that's a challenging one. I think that the in market is the part where you really win market share, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not where you get the most lead volume.
Okay.
So I've lost the audio on you for a second there, Liam.
I'm still here.
Okay,
Can you
cool.
hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
I was just pausing to be able to try to give you that moment to be able to collect your thoughts.
Yeah.
But obviously, we'll pull this part out, shall we? Yeah, it's just like for me, and I think I told you at the beginning of before we jumped on here, I want to be able to ask some questions that are going to be a little bit of a head scratcher
Hmm.
because a lot of BPOs that are just starting out, I mean, they come to me and they say, "Well, the number one question that a new BPO gets is how to get clients." Number one question, right? I actually tell them that that's the wrong question to ask. You need to be able to just acquire one or two clients through true grit and then build out into a specialization and really focus on that. But that's why I wanted to ask that question, is figure out what what would be the singular thing that you would say, yeah, I would knock that, like that's what we're world class at. For me at Time Doctor, that is undoubtedly search engine optimization, content strategy. Just writing content for us has been a very slow build over an extended amount of time, but now we've built such an overwhelming amount of traffic for organic search terms that we get leads that come in whether we're ready for them or not. To be completely honest with you, it's just like
Hmm.
it's just like the weather. Those leads come in every single week, which allows us a really good base level to then be able to attach outbound sales and conferences and all the other things that we do inside of the company to be more successful.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, we follow a similar line. I mean, it was content in a large way. I think the I really think that being in person at the events in the community where our clients are is probably the big one,
Right.
because it's made the biggest benefit over a long period of time. But it hasn't given us the initial, like if we're looking for initial hit of leads, for example, things like digital and that are quite easy to get up and running. But you
Right.
got to know, in my mind, who you're serving and really targeting that one person. Not You're not trying to go out there and attract 100. You're just
Mm-hmm.
targeting one. And if you're
Mm-hmm.
targeting one, you'll end up targeting 100. But being very
Yeah.
specific with who you serve is probably the key for me. So that's why I think the in person has really been a game changer for us, because we're consistently showing up for our community. We're not
Mm-hmm.
just taking from the community, and we're being part of it actively. And then I think all the other things have really played into it.
Mm. No, that's a good piece of advice. Uh, Another question that I have for you is, let's say that you can speak to yourself. Let's not even say 10 years ago. Let's say 5 years ago, right? You're on the come up with regards to the company. What would you tell that person? Would there be any huge strategy shift that you would say you're moving in this direction and you actually need to move in this other direction? Or, um, don't approach this market, or any piece of advice that you would give your younger self 5 years back?
Yeah, interesting one, because 5 years ago I brought in a CEO to run the day-to-day operations of the business, to really drive the operations, because we were spread across many countries. And
Mm-hmm.
he then brought in a digital transformation. So we were very much, well, like accountants, we were Excel based. Everything was manual. We were just putting on more people instead of using technology. So he really started to digitalize the business. But we probably went after a few things during that digitalization that really set us back. We had a a transformation in some areas that we just tried to do too much too soon. And we ended up delivering a worse service to our team members and ultimately making it harder for our clients to do business with us. And that was just, there was just a few things that we just could have done better. And it was really around digital transformation is a huge process. And when you're changing things like timekeeping and other bits and pieces, we failed in some areas of that. But it's made a significantly positive effect on our business now. We've built something that no one else has, but it was tough along the way. We made it difficult. We say we punched ourselves in the face. We made it really difficult for our team members and clients for a period of time.
Any particular example that's coming to mind or story that you would want to share connected to that?
Yeah, well, I think it was, I mean, the timekeeping. We ended up building our own timekeeping app because all of our technology, we work on a Microsoft platform and all of our data goes into a data lake. And you know, when you're trying to do timekeeping and you're trying to build it yourself and you're not really a tech company, it's it's quite interesting. We had great developers, but
Right.
we tackled something quite large and just didn't get it 100% right. It was like 98%, but 98% is not good enough.
Yeah.
So I think that you need to be very cautious of things that have a flow-on effect. It's the problem after the problem we probably didn't consider enough. If timekeeping doesn't work properly, what effect does that have, and what effect does that have, and ultimately it all comes back to being able to do accurate pays or be able to serve your customers if they have questions around it. And yeah, it's just I think the technology for me was a big learning because you go through phases of BPO where we can get away with like just a HubSpot, and that runs sort of all your sales and account management. And as you grow, you need to get more sophisticated technology. And this is something that we've always had within our business mentors and other people in the industry, and something that one of the task us people that said to one of our leaders when they were catching up is be very wary of when you need the technology. Don't go from a payroll system that people you need when you're 1,000 people, and don't still have it when you're 5,000. Get the one you need for when you're 5,000, when you're 1,000. And we probably did that a little bit too soon and tried to change too many things too soon. But the end result is we got through it, and we've got some tech now that is running our business that is, I truly believe world class. But it's, geez, we got punched in the face along the way a few times.
I have a funny story about time tracking solutions that were built internally. I remember this one client, and they were about 1,500 seats, I believe, and they had built their own solution. But the problem that they had is inside of their UI, their user interface, they had a section where they could delete an individual worker's time. So they had all of the employees inside of the organization. But if you didn't click on any of those names at all, if you deselected all of them, you actually selected all of them. And so one day, one of the admins was deleting Nick's data for some reason, but accidentally actually clicked on everyone and deleted everyone's data in the organization for the entire year. And that's when they ended up coming to us, and they said, we're finished. Yeah. We need to be able to figure out another solution. So I completely agree with you. Build the right... I actually think that the future of BPOs are probably a percentage of homebrew, so internally built solutions, in combination with external suppliers that are really a good mix between those two. But figuring out how to actually connect them all, that's actually the next big challenge to me, where we're seeing some stuff right now with artificial intelligence and machine learning that are really kind of going to dictate the next 10 years of the BPO industry. And it really depends on where that data is located and how it actually interacts with each other.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's the key challenge, and that was our main, I suppose, motivation with building out. We're not building a lot of the tech; we're just integrating it all within the system. Because 100%, you're right. I think data is, the new oil, if you want to call it that, and that's where the AI and everything will be able to play. And make such a difference. But you need to be able to have it in that structured approach where everything connects and talks.
How are you thinking about artificial intelligence in your industry? Because I think there's definitely going to be a huge shift in the bookkeeping and accounting industry. Um, how are you thinking about that outlook over the next like 3 to 5 years, as an example? What kind of changes do you think that you're going to make inside of the company?
It's an interesting one because we've seen, I suppose the automation of the industry coming for since the whole time we've been in, like cloud accounting really enabled us to be able to do what we do now. And that
Mm-hmm.
was the first thing. And that already took 30 to 40% of the work that accountants and bookkeepers do away from them. But the funny
Mm-hmm.
thing is, they're busier now than they ever have been. So
Right.
I think even with AI, what it's going to do is take away a lot of an Intuit launched in the last couple of weeks, an AI bot that can give advice, and it's quite limited at the moment, but you can see where they're going with it. But I think
Right.
that just adds more value to our industry. But it means that team members need to move up the value chain. So they need to move away from doing things like data entry will truly be gone once and for all. At the moment,
Mm-hmm.
it's still there in some ways. So I think that the reality is that it will truly move everyone up the value chain, which is a big focus of why we've got the training is because we want to move everyone up the value chain. And I
Got it.
think that the reality is that we can't, because we're an offshoring, I suppose, business where clients come to us for a person and then they give them the work, they work on their systems and process. We don't really have the ability to implement AI and say to our clients, look, all of your team members are going to use it because
Mm-hmm.
they individually do the work that the firm gives them. But for us, it's
Mm-hmm.
about how can we utilize AI internally for what we do. And we already do. We have a data scientist and we have team members that predict attrition. And we've been doing that for a little while now. But I think for us, it's around how do we really leverage AI in our business? And
Mm-hmm.
that's really where we're focusing because Intuit, for example, have spent billions and billions and billions of dollars on AI. The
Mm-hmm.
industry is going to spend a lot of money to really advance the industry. So we don't need to go and try and compete with billion-dollar companies, but we can certainly help our clients understand that once it's been built, how do we train team members to actually utilize it? That's
Mm.
the gap that we're going to fill is we don't have to go and build it, but we have to be really great at going, this is the application of how it can be implemented in the day-to-day work and then teach our clients around that so that they can then obviously implement it within what they do and have team members that are capable of driving it.
I completely agree with you with regards to your perspective on automation. I mean, it has been the big scary monster in the BPO industry for over a decade. And when you look at where it's going right now, I mean, the industry has grown over the last decade. This is always the scary monster that's supposed to come out and cut the entire market in half. But to be honest with you, where everyone's just going to move up the value chain, particularly in accounting and bookkeeping. I mean, to be honest, I don't care what kind of AI you have. I need a human being to be able to confirm that this is true and that the information that I'm sending to the tax authority is actually the information that is inside of my, is inside of my bank accounts and everything. And it's just like, no matter what, you want that human to be able to confirm that information, at least for me, because you need that type of authority inside of the market.
100%. And that was one of we say we were lucky that we ended up serving this niche because accountants are recession proof. During good times, people need them
Right.
because they need advice around tax planning and how do I keep up with the growth of my business in things like the pandemic when government are giving free money out. They need their financials, they need to submit the forms and the paperwork to be able to get that money. Then they need to understand, should I take the money because if I have to repay it, what are the consequences? So there's all those things. Accountants, ultimately, I always say accounting is a human-based business.
Mm-hmm.
So they will never not have a job, but the way that they work with their clients will evolve and change. And
Mm.
that requires a very different skill set because accounting is traditionally a very technical skill set that you need. But moving
Right.
forward, that human connection is more of a soft skill, which, a lot of accountants are introverts. There's a lot that aren't. Um, but how do we give them the skill set to be able to communicate and be comfortable and enjoy talking to clients and ultimately customers and leading and growing teams? It's a very different skill set that they're not typically taught while they're going through university.
No, you're absolutely right. I think that I'm almost interpreting it as accounting should be a customer service business, not necessarily a numbers business.
And
And
it's
you're
evolving.
teaching your team members to do that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I got a couple quick fire questions here that I ask everybody in the podcast. So, first question is, what's the biggest mistake you made in your business? And this is like a purple elephant type of moment, which is the one that you had in your head at the very beginning is the one that I wish that you would share with me once I gave you that, once I asked you that question.
Yeah, look, I think that the big one from a marketing point of view was the domain. Like that was a big fail, and then the second one was the timekeeping, the log in and log off app that we built for our team members. That was probably the other one. Like they were probably the big, if we could have just approached them slightly differently, we would have had a very different result.
Cool. What's the biggest thing stopping you from getting to the next level in the business? So, what's the biggest thing stopping you from getting to 10,000 reps, as an example?
I think we're self-funded. So for us, it's we want to grow at a pace that's reasonable. We're not controlled by PE or VCs. So for us, it's just around growing the smart way, so that we can make the biggest impact and not just growing for growth's sake. So serving the right clients, helping our team members grow their careers and continue their careers, and really working with the right type of client. Even within our niche, there's the right and wrong type of client to deal with.
Got it. Okay. Very interesting. What do you think the BPO industry needs to do differently as it stands now?
That's an interesting question. I think we need to really help promote the industry together, and I think that at the moment there's a lot of what I call 2.0 BPOs coming up. So people that are not actually registered in the country, that are just employing freelancers or contractors, but putting themselves out as BPOs. And I think that the challenge is they're less sophisticated, and the reality is they're overpaying people. So I think that the biggest challenge that we need to come together with is to go, as an industry, we need to be sustainable. Everyone should be registered in the country where they operate. They should be paying taxes in the country where they operate. And they need to be paying what is a market rate salary, and not, the challenge is if salaries keep inflating at the rate they are, then the country becomes really uncompetitive. And we're across multiple countries, and we're seeing this in multiple countries. And that's one of the biggest challenges, I think, is that it's what I call the underground BPOs, the ones that are not actually real BPOs that are registered in the countries. But there's nothing you can really do about that. So for me, it's about just making sure that the quality of what we deliver and why people would consider outsourcing is really top notch, because we can all lift the river. We can all have a rising tide if we all work together, as opposed to trying to work against each other.
No, that's very well said. We already talked about your accreditation program, which is a big part of my following question. But how do you engage and retain talent outside of that? I mean, people get their accreditation. Is there something else that you do that you really think is unique in terms of engaging and retaining people?
I think one thing I'd like to say we do well is the human connection, and I think it's that community piece. We want them to feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves. We want them to be engaged with us, and there's a range of engagement activities we do throughout the year. We hired the biggest water park in the Philippines this year, for example, and for part of our team building, there's a range of things we do throughout the year. But sports fest, but those things are just, to me, they're just, you have to do them. But what really makes us stand out is that everything we design and deliver is for who we serve, and that we serve, in our eyes, our team members and our clients. And by building everything you do for them with the lens of them, we want to provide a professional environment. For example, we're not a call center, we're a professional accounting business. So subtle differences, but it makes a major difference over a longer period of time.
I just had a mental visual of 3,700 accountants and bookkeepers at a water park, and it made me laugh. Last question that I have for you is, where do you see the future of work? Where do you see work in the next 5 years? Any big changes?
Yeah, I'm a big believer of human connection, and which to me includes an office.
Mm-hmm.
And to what degree is really the question. So for me, the future work is definitely around flexibility, but it's
Mm-hmm.
also around accelerating careers. It's about
Yeah.
how do we get people to grow their careers quicker so that they can earn more money, so that they can provide more value to their clients, meaning that they're more valuable, meaning they get more money quicker as well. So that's really the future work for me is around flexibility, but it's also accelerating competency is a big thing that I'm
Got
focused
it.
on.
So smart. Yeah. The URL is toaglobal.com. Are there any other places that we should send people that are interested in learning more?
Oh, look, if anyone wants to chat to me, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, so you can go and find me at LinkedIn. But yeah, otherwise, the website's one of the easiest ways to find out more about us.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Nick. Appreciate it. And if anyone's interested in learning some more, we'll have it in show notes. Thanks for spending the time with me today.
Thanks for your time, Liam. It was great to be part of it.